this is such a soulful, important organization, right? A lot of heart.
Yeah.
What do you see when you see the young people? I know you've had a chance to sit with a few when you've met them. What do you see? What do you feel?
Yeah, it's amazing. And, I think meeting some of the students and alums just a few weeks ago just really brought to sort of life for me the important work that NPower does and the life-changing work, I would say. So impressed with, I think they walked in expecting me to inspire them, and I would say they're the ones who inspired me, truly. Amazing stories. I think what struck me is just, the diversity in terms of the path that led each one of them to NPower. Very different journeys. The fact that they all felt that it's a program where the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And if you put in the work, then it's really going to make a difference in terms of giving you purpose and also helping you achieve your dreams and aspirations. One of the students, and all of the students were great, but one in particular, Stephen, a 9-year Army veteran, family with 4 kids, was struggling to find, the, balance between serving and, being there for his family. Decided to go back to school. And what prompted him to, study tech and technology is the fact that he saw that his kids, the impact that it was having in terms of their daily lives, and that's what prompted him to, go back and study tech. And then he found NPower, and his story about just how NPower was truly helping him in terms of his professional development. Just brought to bear, I think, a lot of what we heard earlier, and I'm sure we'll hear later from one of the alums here. So, very powerful and very proud to be, able to partner and support NPower, as was mentioned earlier. We're, new partners, but this is this is an important partnership for us. And I just want to also say a word about Siri and Jane because. I think they're trailblazers in terms of their long-standing support for NPower, and they're certainly, an example that we follow in terms of our partnership with the organization.
A really meaningful interaction, right? To get up close. It's one thing to speak in theory, education is important, training is important, but you meet somebody up close, and you feel that you must support NPower. And what's at the crux of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think. If you think about our purpose as a company and, our culture and our values, we believe that, we have a role to play in being a force for good. And, culture is very, very important to us. It's, building a culture where, every single associate not only can bring their whole selves to work, but can feel that, empowered to challenge the status quo, to experiment, to innovate is important. And the role that technology plays in all this is absolutely critical and essential. So, giving or, contributing to giving an opportunity to those that potentially may not have the opportunity, is extremely important. And, this is where I think the partnership with NPower and hopefully helping NPower also expand its footprint regionally here in the U.S. is so important.
What do you want to tell young? Can you hear me? 1, 2. What do you want to tell young people about preparation for getting into tomorrow's workforce? What should they focus on? What should they think about? How should they think about their education and where it's going to place them in the job force tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I would sort of advocate for learn it all mindset as opposed to a know-it-all mindset. And, I think if you think about just the, advent of new technologies, AI and the like, I think, this is a seminal moment in terms of, really democratizing, in my view, career opportunities in technology. And I think this is going to open up a lot of great opportunities. And really, it's the traditional sort of career track that would lead you to a role in technology, I think, is evolving, and that's where it's sort of a learning culture is so important. I think also important is, I always tell people that careers are never linear. That's certainly been my experience. I think you're always going to have ups and downs in terms of reaching an objective. So being open to help and support along the way, I think goes a long way in terms of helping one achieve their career aspirations.
Yeah, a lot of our careers go zig and zag.
That's
and
right.
Up and down and sideways and so forth. When it comes to diversity and inclusion, there are companies that value it and really lean into it. But there's also a force in America right now that's against it. The same forces that opposed affirmative action are opposed to diversity and inclusion in corporate America. They're suing companies to prevent them from carrying out D&I. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to what is your purpose as a company? What are your values as an organization? And I think if you want to be true to your purpose and to your values, we want to be a high-performing organization. And we believe that to be a high-performing organization, we have to build a culture where our people are energized to deliver for all of our stakeholders, for our customers, for our communities, and ultimately for our shareholders. And the only way to achieve that is if we build a diverse and inclusive culture where people can bring their entire selves to work, where we encourage, promote, diverse ideas. That's how you get to the best possible outcomes. That's how you drive innovation in an organization. So, for us, this is not a side hustle, if you like. This is a core belief as an organization. And we do it because it's the right thing to do, but we do it because it is what we believe will allow us to be a high-performing organization that delivers for all of its stakeholders.
There's some for whom it's worse than a side hustle. It's a window dressing, but not you. You're running a global, massive corporation. You are global in every sense of the word. You've worked all over the world. Your education roots, Syracuse, right? Engineering and MBA. Go Orange. Okay, that's fair. Northwestern doesn't have the greatest basketball team, but that's a whole other story. Football issues too, but anyway. So where'd you go to high school? Where'd you grow up initially?
I grew up in Lebanon. So I went to high school in Lebanon, and then I came to the U.S. At the age of 18 to go to Syracuse.
Could you have imagined anything approaching where you are right now? And what would you tell young Michel? What would you tell him? Watch out.
Well, I pinch myself every day because, it's such an incredible honor to lead, a company that I believe makes a difference in people's lives, and that's very important. My parents were both in insurance, so I grew up with the conviction that I'm not going to follow in their footsteps, and yet here I am. But I think this is an industry where maybe people don't grow up dreaming of insurance as a career, but once you're in, I think it has a certain way of, keeping you in just because of the purpose. So, it's such an amazing honor.
What would you tell yourself? What would you tell that kid?
I would tell myself that, always sort of, follow your heart and your dreams, and, don't think that, don't put a ceiling on your, ambitions. I didn't grow up thinking or dreaming that I would, or even with an ambition that I would become CEO, but I always, wanted to do the best job I can and to be open to, whatever opportunity came next to, how can I make a greater impact? How, I think leadership is about making a difference. So how can I make a greater difference? And that led me to this, to where I am today. So I would tell myself, don't. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't linear. There's always ups and downs, but that's part of the journey, and you have to embrace that, in my view.
Pretty incredible story. You took over the biz just before the pandemic, like a year before the pandemic hit. Since then, what have we been through? I mean, just that, the social justice protests, January 6th, on and on and on. Now we have war on multiple fronts around the world. We have tensions all over the place. What have been the lessons from where you sit of the past 3-4 years? And how are you thinking about moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some, incredibly important lessons from the pandemic. I think we saw people really be there for each other, be there for customers in a way that, maybe it was hard to imagine pre-pandemic. I think that, we saw customers adopt technology and digital tools that otherwise they wouldn't have, and I think that's, important in terms of, what happens next. I think we saw also that our own people were able to be as productive working from home as they were, working in an office environment. And if you asked me pre-pandemic whether I thought, that was even possible, I would not have said that it is. And, now this has led to, I think, more flexible ways of working, which is very important. I think also the trust in companies and corporations increased significantly during the pandemic. And that's a very important responsibility, one that we should, continue to carry forward. As I said, I think companies have a very important role to play, beyond just, our own sort of business, the boundaries of our business, but, in terms of society more broadly. I saw leaders embrace that role during the pandemic. Hopefully that's something that will continue post-pandemic as well.
Is there a trend? Is there an innovation, an idea, a concept going forward that you see that the rest of us don't see? That we should look out for?
My team is going to laugh because I talk about AI about 15 times a day, if not more. And look, I do think we're at an inflection point in terms of, just the progress we've seen in a very short time period, whether it's AI, I think sort of technology more broadly. And, I do think it's an important moment because I think it's going to transform, I think we've always thought about technology as a key enabler to our business. We have to think about it going forward as a force multiplier. And that requires a different mindset, in my view. But I'm very excited at the opportunities. And we've always prided ourselves on being, having this sort of healthy paranoia in terms of, never assume that you're not going to be disrupted. I think the moment you will get disrupted. And I think that's always sort of an incentive for us to, think like the disruptor and to try to, be at the forefront of some of these, advances that we're seeing to see how they can help us transform our business, better deliver for customers, and drive our competitive advantage.
Give us a peek. What does that look like?
Well, there's a lot going on at MetLife. And, I think, what we have today, and I've seen the organization move faster than it ever has. We're seeing now a lot of offshoots in terms of great initiatives that are taking place in the company. I think, over time, that energy is going to build and it's going to be quite meaningful. But I think we're only scratching the surface as far as the true transformational impact of this technology. And of course, you have to use it very responsibly. And that's one of the sort of tenets of how we think about AI and new technologies. We think about it in terms of how do we make sure that we have a very robust framework so that when we deploy it, we're doing so in a manner that is highly responsible, that protects our customers, and frankly, I mean, our currency is our reputation, so that's important from that standpoint as well.
Don't be afraid, right? Unintended consequences, people are concerned about that. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely I am. And yeah, I think this is where you have to, you can't let, the risk associated with the technology prevent you from moving forward, but you have to move forward as well at pace with making sure that you have an infrastructure that enables you to use the technology responsibly. So, what we are doing is we're encouraging our folks to learn, to get educated, to think about the art of the possible. At the same time, we're working centrally at making sure that we have a framework that allows our people to move forward, without the risk of, again, damaging our reputation or doing anything that would sort of be against our values or, the promises that we make to our customers.
Truly. I have one final question. It's a non-tech question. Your company, there's a stadium here that bears the name of your company, MetLife Stadium. Now, if anyone here has ever driven to that place, you can't park, you can't drive, it's the worst. Dude, I was stuck in traffic there the other day. So, as the CEO, do you have any pull in fixing that traffic situation?
So Maurice, we have our name on the stadium, but we don't own it. So.
Can you change?
We'll get on it, though.
We'll get on it.
We'll get on
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. All right. Michel, Khalaf, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you. Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.